Well, this is Smart 24 and welcome to the financial markets. And financial markets comes to you live Monday to Friday from 10 to midday with my colleague Marcelino, coming up also at midday with the trading dawn, and that is more to do with the Forex and Forex trading. Well, this is where we give you the best of business broadcasting, and it's always typically about smart business and driving business forward. And well, right here on the financial markets, we bring you what is happening in the world of finance, banking, and the stock market, both local and global. So stay with us as we are going to peruse through what's happening around. And also just recall that you can follow us on our social media handles, and that is Smart24, both Facebook and Twitter and LinkedIn as well, and so many others, including Instagram and also YouTube. And so we are going to have a look at a deep insight of the local finance news. And just recall that as entrepreneurs, business leaders, and also industry experts, including development partners, or whether probably from whichever stakeholdership that you hold in the economy, you actually realize that finance is a very important issue, just like we see it actually affecting Russia. Right now, there's so many sanctions, and sometimes finance can be used as an art of war, or probably as a weapon of war. So it is very important to keep abreast of what is happening in the world of business. And well, my colleague Shakira and I are going to be working together, and let's now turn to straight to what is happening around us in the world of finance. All right, let's get started. And right here with me are some of the updates some of the updates in the world of finance, both in Uganda and also East Africa. Let's start by seeing what's basically in Uganda. So first and foremost, this is with the help of Daily Monitor Finance News. And just like we see right here, digital economy will cut business informalities, says financial sector deepening in Uganda. And that is very important. And well, when you speak about business informalities, we speak about businesses that are basically not even appearing anywhere on the registration grid. And so by the digital economy, we mean that probably it can basically swiftен business operations and efficiency, and so many other things. But it is very important to understand that right now in business, there are so many instruments. You can use digital instruments just right with your smartphone to basically transact money all across borders, including mobile money, and there's so many other fintech applications that can help you actually do business on a daily basis. Let's now have a look at others. Well, we have here mobile money accounts grow to 32 million. Well, this is a very revolutionary thing to note, and a trend. Mobile money being invented right from Kenya through Safaricom. Well, it was indeed a major breakthrough in the world of financial inclusion and, of course, finance in general. So when you look at financial inclusion, mobile money, more than any other platform, has indeed closed that gap. And we find so many people right now in Africa having at least a mobile money account, let alone a bank account. So mobile money right now, as we speak, many people are now registered with mobile money, and it has grown to 32 million, which is a tremendous achievement, I think, thus far. Well, let's now have a look at more. Deposits in banking sector grow to about 31 trillion shillings, and this is also something that is commendable and also important to note. Well, just recall that deposits in the country are one of the most important things to look at in terms of savings, in terms of what can be invested. and the possibilities of the financial industry to efficiently carry out its duties in the economy. So when we see that deposits in banking sector growing, grow to 31 trillion, I think this is something really commendable. So it has grown over time, and as more people are getting financially included, we can see that this figure can actually go up to even greater heights. So this is a very commendable thing, because when you have deposits, then there you have at least where to start in terms of putting those deposits and that money to work. And that should be basically through investments. So, well, having a look at other news just right here. Petroleum Authority signs SME pipeline support deal. Yes, as you well know, that Uganda is one of those countries that are basically yet to really benefit from the oil sector. So the sky is the limit, we must say, or probably the sky isn't the limit, as many others want to say. The sky is the sky is not the limit. Well, I think it's the limit because it never ends anyway. So we see that petrol, the gas and oil sector is going to basically have us getting in a lot of dollars and probably other currencies that will also strengthen our local, our foreign reserves right here. And thus, meaning we can actually do much more better in terms of trade and balance of payment. So therefore, we can basically see that the future is bright when we have, of course, at least it's the beginning. It's the beginning. We actually may not really be in position to turn that crude oil into finished oil products, but that is only the beginning. As long as we have some bit of changes within the foreign reserves, the local, the foreign reserves in the country. So as we also have a look and take a look at other finance news around us, well, you can see over here that there are tax exemptions under oil and gas sector, which is also an interesting kind of thing to watch in the world of finance. And well, this is in a bid, of course, to ensure that that the sector can basically kick off and grow. And this is most of the times required where necessary, where you have a higher priority kind of investment. So the tax exemptions under oil and gas sector is, I think, also quite a good thing to have even more players come in and probably to allow even for competitiveness and thus really utilizing the sector to increasing the foreign reserves right here in the country. So having a look at other finance news, Uganda Airlines spent over 2.3 billion shillings in salaries of suspended staff. Well, this is interesting to watch as well. Again, Uganda Airlines spent 2.3 billion shillings on salaries of suspended staff. Wow, this is quite an interesting phenomenon there. Well, Uganda Airlines of late, well, our major, as we normally say, ego in the sky, well, has been going through a bit of changes of late, and we can see there that even the former CEO was recently actually, he was forced to step down, and now we await to see the new leadership of the Uganda Airlines. But Uganda Airlines is, I think, in normal terms, it's normal business. Every day we find these kinds of things happening, but I think we can see it doing much more better than this. But all in all, it has spent 2.3 billion on salaries of suspended staff. I think is something that probably the other players and probably government agencies would basically get involved and see probably what to do about that. More finance news. Vandals steal system installed to track theft of electricity assets. So we normally see this happening all the time, and I think that more measures would basically be put in place to ensure that these gadgets, or probably these systems that are put on these electricity assets and grids, well, they should actually be watched even more closely. Let's have a look at more finance news right here. Shilling appreciates amid rise in demand for foreign exchange. Well, this is also quite an interesting thing right here. So the more we have demand for foreign exchange, of course, that in a way strengthens the shilling, because thus you have more foreign reserves also coming in and probably being utilized. And well, the shilling, as it appreciates, well, it is very good that it appreciates to levels that are sustainable. But beyond that, probably it can be something else. Well, having a look at other finance news, oil and gas. Well, oil and gas, how it will create opportunities for housing sector. Of course, it will create opportunities because you have even more expatriates coming in. You have more locals being employed around these gazetted areas, and thus allowing for housing opportunities as well. And that is very, very much evident. So that is it basically with what is happening right now in the world of finance locally. But let's now turn to also what's happening around East Africa. And to start with, just right up over there, we can actually have a look at many of these major headlines. So Rwanda tea fetches premium price at Mombasa auction. Well, this is also an important thing to note, because when we have these kinds of trade activities happening around us, it is a sign that probably the East African community is performing, and it is basically achieving its core mandates. And that is so the value of Rwandan tea has been on an upward trend since the beginning of the year, and well, this could be an interesting industry in Rwanda tea. So probably experts in the tea area know what this really means. So it also means that probably you can actually have Rwanda tea as one of those investment hits that probably you can make soon. So, but research, of course, is required about this, and but nevertheless, the value of Rwandan tea has been on an upward trend since the beginning of the year, which is a very good thing as well. So it could be one of those really, really important commodities that probably Rwanda could trade and comparatively compete on the global market. And of course, we also talk about intra-African trade. Intra-African trade, which is even less than probably right now as we speak, about 13%. And we need to see even more activity happening between countries. And well, we don't necessarily need to look at foreign markets all the time. There are markets even locally within Africa, and we can actually have more ways to trade together. So more Kenyans join Millionaires League, report says. Well, this is an important thing to note as well. Millionaires, what creates millionaires? Well, of course, what creates millionaires is economic activity and investment. And that is what we're seeing here. So, well, but Kenya, of course, in the past few years has basically emerged as one of those top African countries that are creating many dollar millionaires. And there's so many actually joining in right now. And one of the reasons is because its fintech sector is basically performing well. Its real estate sector is basically also booming. And also we can see that Nairobi is termed to be the Silicon Savannah of Africa, and I think that is something that probably you and I would have to make mention or probably pay attention to, because Kenya has produced many millionaires in the past few years, I think at a rate that is higher than many other countries. Also looking at its stock exchange, the Nairobi Securities Exchange in particular, well, you have a lot of companies there, over 60, and of course by African standards 60 is basically quite something, and of course by global standards it's almost close to nothing. But it is important to note that there are many rich Kenyans that are becoming dollar millionaires every single time through the securities exchange, through the financial system, and through the wealth creating activities within Kenya. Many rich Kenyans are eyeing a second nationality to access favorable tax regimes, quality health care. Well, that is it for basically Kenya over there. So turning to Tanzania, Tanzania risks debt distress, World Bank says. Well, this is a very important country as well, and as we actually normally know that last year probably we had the country of Tanzania had lost its former president, President Magufuli, John Pombe Magufuli, and now we have his predecessor also. Well, it's not really an easy task to take on an economy in these times, most especially in these times when we are basically seeing a lot of economies having been on their knees due to COVID-19, but now we see that Tanzania risks debt distress. But anyway, looking at also comparing that with Uganda as well, Uganda's debt is also kind of growing, and if you compare Uganda's GDP, if you get that ratio, the GDP to debt, it is very important to note that we are actually that threshold. We are about to actually cross it, over 50%. And many say, of course, it's 60%, but I think 50% is a better threshold so as to keep the guards up and just try to limit that figure going up, the government debt to GDP, I beg your pardon. It's actually called the government debt to GDP. So right here, as you can see, during the COVID-19 pandemic, the country borrowed non-concessional loans from lenders to keep the economy afloat. Well, I think there is not any economy in the world that doesn't have debt as we speak right now. And well, borrowing is part of business, is part of diplomacy, is part of global countries' mandates. So borrowing probably is the norm of the day, but it also depends on how you borrow and also what measures you put in place to mitigate that risk of having a government debt to GDP so high that it almost reaches a level where it is basically irrecoverable, where you just have to beg for forgiveness from your lenders. So most of the time that's what happens. But Tanzania also is risking a debt distress, and that is, that says the World Bank. And that is basically, I think, the country of Tanzania. So having a look also at happening elsewhere, US seeks to top up its game in scramble for Africa. Well, this is something that is up for discussion. And what do you think so? We have China having relations with Africa, with almost every African country. And not only relations, but we see its physical appearance in terms of infrastructure and so many other monuments. And so what the US is basically also doing, as per this report, it seeks to up its game in Scramble for Africa. So, well, Africa has always been a place where rich nations come to play, but Africans themselves actually can decide their future. And I believe that is what we all want to see. So Africans, we must see that, well, we must up our game, and well, in terms of thinking enterprise and also capitalism, and most of the time it comes from confidence. The confidence to be who we are and to act in a way that really portrays what we stand for as Africans and values. So, well, otherwise the U.S. seeks to explore and expand its trade and investment opportunities in the continent. I think this is very important as well. So if that is the issue, then probably we can see more collaboration. Any relationship that probably brings in some bit of investment is, I think, a very good one to take notice of and also to take on. But however, Africa is going to be the next economy to look out for. By 2050, Africa will be the next big thing happening and rising. And so countries, is why probably we see this kind of scramble for Africa. This scramble for Africa, I think, coming up all the time. It is because Africa is indeed a developing continent and has a lot of opportunities to explore in spite of the problems. So in entrepreneurship, they teach us, well, it is problems and challenges that basically do create wealth. And with that, the power to innovate and the power to invent and the power to think differently in solving problems comes in. And that is why we see Africa becoming the next big thing, probably to take on. So when we actually look at more, probably yes. So let's now turn to basically what's happening also elsewhere. Well, right here we can see, here we have the bank, we have the stock exchange. Yes, we have the stock exchange right here. And this is a typical representation of what is happening in the world of the stock market of Uganda. And this is a market snapshot as per this morning by the Uganda Securities Exchange. It only gives us a glimpse of what's happening in the stock market of Uganda. So, well, it is also important to note that the stock market by all standards is a very important place, because it's a very important thing when we are basically looking at moving the country forward and the entire economy forward, and having new revenue streams for the economy and for individuals in the economy. The stock market is a very important place. It's a very important market as well. So it's just like any other market where you buy and sell, but this time you have securities, public securities, basically traded all the time. And yes, this is where most, globally, this is where many billionaires are made. But of course, leaving other factors constant, well, even the private business has billionaires as well. That is no doubt. But many companies, publicly listed companies globally, and most especially on global stock exchanges, well, do have a lot of billionaires being created every single time. So it is an important part of the economy. Right here in Uganda, it's only about 25 years old, about 25, something around that figure. So that is probably why we see that probably if you compare Uganda with other countries or probably other global stock exchanges, it would be an unfair thing to do so. But however, we can see also a bit of development. We now have about 16 companies listed on the Uganda Securities Exchange. and some of them cross-listed from the Nairobi Securities Exchange. So let's have a deep look into how many of these stocks are performing. And we recently saw that probably taking your company public could be one of those big things to do sometime soon, because many investors who invest in private businesses will want to see that private business actually increase more in value. Yes, it can increase in value probably through other means like a trade sale or probably secondary sale, but an IPO is the real a big thing for many investors who invest in private businesses with the hope of probably selling their stake after they go public and when the company has gained even much more value and capital. So it is very important to note that much of this, is it's just a matter of a game, because most of the time it is also a couple of securities, including shares that are basically issued for the public to buy and sell. And of course, with the help of brokers, you can always make a very prudent investment. And it's always important as a starter to basically inquire from those who have been in the game for quite a long time. Let's first go for a short commercial break. I'm going to be right back as we look into what is happening in terms of the share prices of these different companies listed on the Uganda Securities Exchange.